Hey guys, I'm a Marmaduke fan here. I'm doing library youth section graphic novel reviews. Again, it's a return to tradition. So we're looking at Pashmina by Nidhi Chanani. This is kind of like in the tradition of American immigrant experience comics, like American Born Chinese. I enjoyed Pashmina. I'm kind of getting tired of this genre of book, so I'm trying to separate this book it as an individual thing from the phenomenon of libraries love American immigrant experience comics. So this is the kind of comic that's definitely like Eisner bait, the sort of cerebral world of comics. This is the kind of thing they eat up. But I really did enjoy Nidhi's cartoon style and her visual storytelling. So even putting aside, how I don't like the genre that much, I do like this comic. So let's talk about a few aspects. What I'll say when I say I like it is I think the opening is very strong. This is her first graphic novel, and I think it's a strong first effort. I like the first half of the book a lot more than the second half. And the way I'd put it is the main character, Pri, she's a well-written character. They're very strong. It's very clearly like a strong element of the author putting herself and her feelings onto the character, even to the point that the end of the story is writing the story of Pashmina that you're reading. And she's an American-born kid who wants to connect with her Indian experience. She's been raised in the U.S. Her mom doesn't talk about India. So for her, India feels like this magical, strange thing in her background that she knows is important, but she doesn't want to know much about. So her learning about India and traveling to India and finding the magical Pashmina is a giant metaphor for her kind of like coming to terms with her identity as an American immigrant. So let's open up because since I like the opening stuff. So once that she finds the Pashmina and she finds its magic, I don't find the magical story of the Pashmina as interesting as the character herself. I almost feel like you could take the magical Pashmina out of the story and you'd have a really solid character drama about an American immigrant kid. So Pri's mom, it's a bit of a nervous wreck. She screams while her daughter's learning to drive. Her mom, this reminds me a lot of Turning Red, where it's a tough mother-daughter relationship. But thankfully, Pri's mom isn't as much as a harridan as Ming is in Turning Red. But there is some tension there. Pri's mom has moved to America because she had to get out of India. She wanted to be independent and she couldn't take the traditional culture in India. But then once she gets to America, America doesn't really feel like home to her. She doesn't like how loosey-goosey American morals are compared to Indian traditional family morals. So Pri finds herself in this awkward situation where she's kind of being judged by her mom for not being Indian enough, and she's Indian, which means she doesn't really fit in with the mean girls at school, and the mean girls mispronounce her name on purpose. So the American immigrant story is always about feeling caught between these two worlds. So one thing I really liked was how the story of Shakti was used. So Shakti is a goddess. She's mourning the loss of, I think it's Shiva. And so she's told, well, you can either choose the path of sadness or you can choose the path of meditation. And then Shakti, by meditating, becomes so enraptured in meditation that she doesn't realize that she's been swallowed by the ocean and she becomes one with the ocean. So Shakti's, it's kind of like this almost Eastern mystical idea of you control your emotional state and then you become calm and you can deal with everything. And then what was really nice about this framing device is Pri's whole character drama is essentially learning to apply this lesson for herself. So transparently, Pri wants to have a stable father figure. Her dad is not in the picture. Her mom will not talk about the dad. So I'm assuming white English teacher is sort of like a supportive guy who's encouraging her to believe in herself and try to submit her comics to contests. And she has self-doubt. So, okay, strong male figure encouraging her to believe in herself as a creator. Boyfriend, I can assume he's not Indian because they make a point that she only introduces herself as Pri to because she's worried that people can't pronounce her name correctly, and then at the end she kind of like gives him permission to call her Priyanka as a pet name. So I'm assuming he's supposed to be white or Asian or something, but she's got a nice stable boyfriend who is a comic geek, and she has a uncle who's not a relative by blood, but he has no children, and so he sort of treated her like his daughter. So father's not in the picture, and she's looking for a stable man who makes her feel safe and gives her kind of like this element of calm in the turmoil of her teenage life. Another thing I like is silent visual communication. There are a lot of scenes that are carried completely by the expression of the character, and then you infer from the expression of the character what the inner psychology is. So her surrogate uncle finally has a baby. He's been trying to have a child for years, and he's never had one. So once he's going to have a baby, she starts having the classic jealousy of, well, now that he's going to have a baby, he's not going to have time to spend with me anymore, and I'm going to lose the only thing I have that's close to a stable father figure. She prays a prayer that she doesn't wish for the baby to die, but she prays something along the lines of, please don't take my uncle away from me. He doesn't need a baby. And the baby is born premature and goes into intensive care. So, of course, she blames herself for praying that prayer, assuming she caused it. And she finds the magic Pashmina, which is kind of like a traditional Indian form of female clothing made of silk. And the Pashmina allows her to visit a magical world. And the world she's visiting is India. It's not the real India. It's the India of the imagination. It's the exotic India of, in Indian textbooks and travel brochures. It's a romanticized view of India. And then every time she visits every time she has one of these mystical visions, she keeps seeing this shadow pursuing her. So she gets the idea that I need to go to the real India, that something about this shawl is calling me to the real India. And of course, her mother does not want to go back to India because of all her family drama there. When eventually, of course, she finally does convince her mom to let her go to India, she connects with her aunt, and then the story kind of transfers to them trying to figure out the mystery of what the Pashmina is. Now, my problem with that element of the story is the story of solving the mystery of the Pashmina is her trying to connect to her Indian culture, but it doesn't really have much impact on her. She finds out that the Pashmina was magically woven by a woman who's not connected to her family in any way, really, as a way of kind of helping women find their path in life by showing women their choices, right? So I guess the problem is we don't really go anywhere that interesting with the Pashmina. She finds out who made the Pashmina and what it does. The magic of it works by showing you what your future will be, but it shows it to you in kind of an idealized form. She kind of reconnects with her aunt and then comes back home a changed person, feeling much better. And now she's able to talk to her mother. So I guess my criticism would be I always actually found this much more interesting. This feels like the start of an idea that could have been developed into she's being teleported into a magical avatar world that's like antique India, and she has an adventure there. The Pashmina is almost more like what would be it's on this thin line between does it even have magic at all? Does the Pashmina really have magic, or is wearing the Pashmina and sort of thinking about your future, is that just a metaphor for imagining what your life could be? And so the Pashmina could just be a plain piece of cloth that helps you connect with this, right? So that's the direction I thought it was going, is that it has no magic at all. It was you the whole time, but then I guess it's kind of magic. So yeah, it's not bad. I just think it feels like a rough draft for something, and I get the length is probably hurting it too. You can't do a massive 1,000-page epic adventure in this. So I would say it's a solid little biopic, and I'm actually kind of more interested to see what Nidhi does as a follow-up because of the strength of her visual storytelling and her emotional storytelling. So those are my thoughts. I'd say maybe 7 out of 10, really solid for first effort. Fun little book. I don't find it objectionable. Well, one of the funny things is she goes to India, and after having all these romantic visions of it, she gets to India and it's dirty, and all the people in India, the adults in India, are telling her, this part of the neighborhood sucks. It's filthy. It kind of sucks, but it's our home. That we love it anyway. So in a way, it's sort of like the meta narrative is she finally goes to India to get her identity crisis out of the way. She kind of finds that India isn't as impressive in her reality as it is in her imagination, and manages to come back home a changed person. So, yeah, fun little book. If you see it at the library, pick it up. Love you guys. Catch you later.